webinar. Did I say February? April rather. April webinar, and we're trying to do this at least, not every month, but almost every month, right? So we have topics that a lot of our clients, things that they are struggling with or want to get better at. So we want to really give back and make you, help you to become better at marketing your business or organization. So today we're going to look at the importance of leads. Like what is a lead, and why should you pay attention to them? Then we're going to talk a little bit about the mindset on how to get more leads. So what I found from my personal experience is sometimes we are our own worst enemy when it comes to having the right mindset to actually even getting started on this. And then the third component is the actual building of a system, and like a lead flow system that you can implement in your business, and that will help you to get a predictable flow of leads coming into your business. So just by a show of hands on this call here, like who's interested in getting more leads and more customers? Yay. Okay. Everybody I can see is raising their hands, and I should raise my hand too. We're always looking for more as well, right? So that's just the nature of business, and that's totally fine. You of course you're taking care of your current clients, but there's always a churn rate. There's always people that are leaving for different reasons, and so you're always on the lookout. If you want to grow your business, you're always on the lookout to attract more clients to your business. So with that, I could honestly say from personal experience in talking to hundreds, if not thousands, of small business owners over the years, is that the number one concern that they have, or the ask that they have, give me more leads, right? Like we need people to talk to, right? And that's kind of what yeah, like that makes sense. So because all of you on this call and all of our clients are generally really good at what they do, but they don't always have enough people to talk to about what they do, right? So that's where our leads come in. So hopefully that resonates with you, and then by the sounds of it, that kind of makes sense. We live, if you run a business, you are looking for, adding customers to your repertoire. So the first thing I want to kind of, give you a bit of a background on why I think leads are important. I mean, everybody thinks, of course, customers are ultimately important, and that's true. Ultimately, everything we do with marketing, our business, has to do with getting more customers in the end. But the way it works these days is definitely, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but not everybody is ready to buy your product today. It depends a little bit what you're doing. Like if you have a retail store, for example, you're selling candy bars, then this may not be as applicable to you. But if you're in a business that, you're selling larger ticket items, like higher priced items, leads are kind of the lifeblood of your business. So you need to take care of that. So my definition of a lead is somebody that you can talk to. So a follower on Facebook, for example, I don't consider that a lead. That is just somebody that follows you online, but you don't necessarily have their information. You can't really reach out to them and talk to them. So the the way I look at the journey that most people take, and people, the first step in the customer journey, this is called in marketing terms, and you may or may not be familiar with this. But the very first phase of the customer journey is they don't even know you exist, right? Believe it or not. Like I've been around for quite a few years, but in business, I've probably been around close to 30 years. And not only with this business, but with different businesses. And believe it or not, like even in our hometown or central Alberta, our home territory, people still don't know that we exist, believe it or not. I mean, a lot of people do, but there's still an awful lot of people that don't, right? So we're kind of in the same boat, and you're probably in the same boat as well. So that's a stranger, right? So what is the purpose of marketing? In generally speaking, is to make strangers into visitors, right? That's generally the first step. They go to your social media profile, they go to your website, they may even come to your place of business. So that's kind of the first step in the journey, is to become a visitor, to find out that you exist. Now, a lot of the traditional marketing and also some of the traditional marketing that we're doing is kind of geared towards those two steps, turning strangers into visitors. But there's not a lot of talk about actually turning those visitors into leads. So the main topic of today is kind of talk about that a little bit more, how you can get better at actually converting some of the traffic you're already having on your website and make them into leads. So somebody that you can actually talk to, like somebody that has raised their hand and say, "Hey, I'm interested in what you have to offer. I may not be ready to buy right away, but I'm definitely, I'm closer to making that decision." So that's a really important group of people, in my opinion. So another way of looking at it is kind of like if you look at your market, and I know this may be small, relatively small on your screen. Oops, this may be relatively small on your screen, but a lot of small businesses are focusing on the people that are ready to buy today, right? Like, and of course, like somebody's inquiring, they need a quote, they need, they're ready to go. And but generally speaking, in general terms, that could only be like 3% of your total market that is actually ready to buy today. So again, what I see a lot of businesses do, and we're no different in some ways. We're always trying to focus on the people that are ready to say yes today and seal the deal, so to speak. So, and that's an important group, but it only makes up maybe 3% of your complete market. So what I'm suggesting is that there's also, for example, 7% of people that are in contact with you or have found out about you are actually, very open to buying from you. And then there's another 30% that is interested, but not right now, like maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, right? So that's kind of the everything in orange is kind of like they're all leads. So people that have interacted with your business or with yourself, they have shown interest, but they just never have pulled the trigger. So the big mistake that I see small businesses make is not focusing enough on that group of people. And then, it's a lost opportunity because it's a lot easier to talk to those people than it is to talk to complete strangers. And you've already done a lot of work with your advertising and marketing to get them to get to know you. So now it's just a matter of nurturing that relationship in until they're actually ready to buy. Now, in some cases, like again with our company, sometimes it takes literally years for people to actually buy from us. Somebody told me like last year. He said, "Yeah, I've been following you, Peter, for 7 years." Um, Whatever that means, like on my social media platforms. Maybe he's been on the website. He knows about us, but he just never really took any action to actually let me know about that. So just give you an idea that in your business, you could have a list of people that have inquired, right? Like I see Samantha, you were at HT Catering, right? And I'm just gonna use it as an example. Somebody has inquired 2 years ago that they had a banquet or they had a wedding coming up or some event, but they just never pulled the trigger, right? Like, do you convert 100% of the people that inquire? I don't want to put you in the spot.
No, I don't book all the people that inquire, no, but I don't really know how to follow up with them once I have their information because it's hard to say if they're going to be planning another event right away or stuff like that. So that's just the struggles that I've
Yeah,
had.
yeah. No, well, thanks for clarifying that, and that's absolutely true, right? So we want to gently build a relationship with them without hunting them down or sounding salesy, right? Like be on their case all the time. But there's definitely a lot of tools available now to actually do that effectively, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So hopefully this makes kind of makes sense for you. Like sometimes I show this to people and they go like, "Yeah, like that's so true," because we're just focusing on the people that are knocking on our door right now. But what about the people that knocked on our door like 6 months ago? What did we do with them? Like, do we actually do anything with that information? This could be a real like a game changer for your business if you do this properly. So leads are the lifeblood of your business, right? New leads coming in, new customers coming in is definitely not optional. Fair enough to say that all of us small business owners are losing clients at some point. I mean, it could be through all kinds of reasons. So you always have to have a fresh stream of new customers. unless you have such a business that you never lose anybody, and that's fine. But for most small business owners, this is the reality. So again, like leads versus visitors, like a visitor to your website or to your social media page is really important, right? And again, a lot of the work that Edge actually doing is helping people find you that way and get that traffic to your online properties. But like a lead, like a visitor to your website, like if we tell a customer, well, you had, Stuart, you had 1,000 visitors to your website. Well, that's really cool. Well, Stuart will say, but how many of those actually became leads or actually became clients, right? So there's sometimes a disconnect between bragging about the metrics, the numbers that we have, but where I say that you should really look at like how many new clients did you get out of all these efforts, right? So that a lead, in my opinion, is the next step in that customer journey, and it's as soon as you have a lead, now you have somebody to talk to, right? And again, from my experience, most small businesses are actually really good at talking to those leads once they actually have a connection. So before we get into our like three-step program, and this is something that we actually practice at Edge. This we've implemented this ourselves, and I know it's working, and that's why I'm excited to share this information with you. So there's a few things that I see over and over again, even in myself, that we need to kind of get over. Because if your mindset is not correct, you don't believe that you can grow your business, you don't believe that you actually have a good solution to somebody's problem, that will shine through in everything you do. I don't care how much advertising you do, how much content you produce, people will sense that like almost instantly, right? So I just there's these five mindsets. I'm just gonna go through them and let me know if that resonates with you. Let me know if that actually makes sense to you. So the number one mindset I see small businesses kind of making a mistake in is like they don't really believe that the solution or the product they have is actually going to help their customer, right? Sometimes that's this little voice inside us says, well, maybe we're not a good fit for this client. Maybe they already have the competitors are taking care of this client. What if they don't have the budget, right? We make all those assumptions about our client before we even talk to them and say, hey, we have a really good solution for the problem that you're struggling with. And we've solved that problem for other clients just like you, right? So you need to kind of get over that, over yourself in some ways. So that's a big one. Yeah, you don't want to be too pushy. Like Samantha says, like, how do I deal with the people that are on the list that I haven't heard from for a while? Yeah, you don't want to send them an email every other day because that would just end badly. But you can definitely think about ways how can you reactivate some of those people because they already know about you, right? So it's so much easier to talk to them and connect with them than it is to connect with total strangers. So the other mindset is like sometimes we tell ourselves, well, the market is just too small. There's too many competitors in our space already. So we have kind of a scarcity mindset, right? Does that sound familiar at all? I think we all do it, and subconsciously maybe sometimes. But if we can change that to an abundance mindset, like for Edge, for example, we should say, or we are saying, there's an unlimited number of people that can use our service. We're just scratching the surface, even with the hundreds of clients we already have. We're scratching the surface. So to tell myself there's not enough business to go around, it's just a lie. So you just need to get over that and start thinking about an abundance mindset. The world is big enough for more than one company, right? And every company on this call, every person on this call, you have competitors. I don't care. I've never met somebody, a small business owner, that's completely unique. They're the only company in the world that does a certain product. I mean, it does happen, but it doesn't last. If that's the case, it generally doesn't last very long because other people will imitate and copy you. So the other thing is, about the opportunities, never close the door for future opportunities, right? If you talk to a client and not ready to buy, or they plain out say no, keep that relationship going and say, hey, like if there's any other time in the future you need help, then we're here to help you. So keep that in mind as well. Mindset number three is, focus on relationships, not sales, right? Nobody wants to be sold to, but people want to get to know you and see you as a person. So that's really important. So, sales, the word sales kind of transactional. Okay. Like you're just, Mark, you're just another sale on our monthly sales this month. Without thinking about the person that's behind it and how we actually help this person or this business with a certain product problem that they are experiencing. The other thing is with if you focus on relationships, you are automatically focusing on lifetime value of the customer. So lifetime value, of course, is way more important than the short-term sale that we make, right? So keep that in mind as well. Mindset number four is, my pipeline. So like how many new leads I have to work with is never zero. Like I always have opportunities. I always have people coming in, right? Because if you don't, and you talk to prospective clients, they will generally spot that as well, right? And then if your pipeline is completely zero, you're under a lot of pressure to sell, and that's kind of the last thing you want, right? Okay, is it making sense so far? I don't have the chat box open here, so I don't see what you guys are typing in, but so that's kind of an important one as well. So you don't want to come across as desperate, right? That's the last thing you want to do. And then the last one is to focus on the right opportunities, right? And we've all done it. Like, and especially if you're early on in your career as a business owner, you almost want to take on every client and every project. Whereas later on, you actually, generally speaking, become a bit more selective. What is really important, and when we work with new clients, for example, we really want to make sure that we're a good fit for them, right? It's in and vice versa as well. So if we're not a good fit, then it's much better to acknowledge that and kind of part ways earlier, and or even refer them to somebody else that can help them better. Much better than just trying to get all these clients and get all these, you know, if it's not a good fit, you take them on. What's going to happen? Generally speaking, it's going to be a problem, right? So those are first a few things that I want to share with you on, on kind of the mindset of the whole thing. So now we're getting into actually building the like a lead flow system, we call it. So like a consistent flow of new people coming into your business. Now, why would you build it into a system? Well, if you create a system, it forces you to take repeatable steps. You basically, you have something that you can work on. You can also work with other people, like at Edge, for example. We work several people are working with business development and talking to people. So you can actually have a standard operating procedure for that if you're more than one person doing this, which can be really helpful to teach others to do the same thing. So ultimately, the goal is to have a predictable flow of new leads. Just by a show of hands or something in the chat box, like how consistent is your current new leads that coming into your business? Are you happy with that, or is it going up and down, or is it kind of steady? I would love to find out. Anybody?
Monique's flow of leads is pretty steady right now.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and that's important, right? Because again, if you go, a lot of businesses work with new businesses or new project coming in on a very up and down kind of a level. So then one month they have too much to deal with, and then the next month they don't have enough. So yeah, that's great, Monique, that you actually have a steady flow already. And hopefully this will be helpful to kind of even make that better, right? So then the next thing, once you have a steady flow, now you can also determine if you need more clients, for example, right? Like not every business necessarily wants to grow, although most of them do, right? If you want to stay in business, then you generally have to grow. Yeah. So Mark, you have a low influx of new leads at the moment. Yeah, and it's a starting business, right? So this is one of your main challenges that you run into, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Peter. A startup, and the product is not a product that is common in the market that I'm working in. So it's a new kind of tourism product, if you like. So it's a bit of a education that has to follow with things.
No, exactly. And that's very true, right? Like if you have a complete new product or service that nobody are actually looking for, right? Like if you have a catering company, you have like a consulting company, generally speaking, there's people that are looking for what you have to offer. But yeah, like in some cases, when you start something new, it's really great because you can kind of own that niche, right? But it's also the challenge is, of course, telling people about it and actually, getting enough leads to talk to, right? Because Mark, I'm sure, like when you get a new inquiry and somebody talks to you, you're probably pretty good at explaining exactly what you do and convert them into clients, right? That's
Yeah, that's correct. And I mean, I'm focused on building relationships, as you've mentioned. I have a background in sales, so I know it's about having long-term clients or long-term relationships is the goal ultimately, right?
yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So you're doing a lot of things right. So now you just have to bump up the volume of getting more leads. So this is very timely for you. I mean, I'm not saying this is at any point this is an easy thing to do. Okay, like just push a few buttons and they'll roll in. But I think if you build a system and you're consistent about implementing that system and working that system, you will see results. I can absolutely guarantee it, and I've seen it myself. So this mean-looking guy here, Jocko Willing, like an ex-Marine, he talks all about motivation, and I thought it was kind of a good quote because, you count on discipline when you do these things, not just on inspiration or when it works out for you, but discipline, just grinding away at this stuff on a daily and weekly and monthly basis. That's really what it's going to take. So another a couple more things if you want to implement this and want to start this, keep it simple. Like set up a system that you actually can follow. Just don't overcomplicate it. You can always add more things to it later, but keep it as simple as possible. Set realistic goals as well. Like you can really run yourself down by giving yourself goals that are completely unrealistic. For example, like double your sales in the next 6 months or next year. Generally speaking, that is not realistic, right? Unless you really have a plan for that. So be kind to yourself. Like give yourself goals, but don't overdo it. Okay. Form a consistent habit. And again, if you do these things, like I'm a recreational runner. Okay, so I'm training for the Calgary half in I think 5 weeks. Can't believe it. I'm not quite ready, but um, the thing is with running, it's a habit. It has to be a habit. You have to be very diligent and very disciplined for it. So I don't even think about like a run about 3 or 4 times a week. I don't even think about it anymore. Just do it, right? And that's the same with something like this. Once you create this habit and you get into it and you see results, with running, I see the results. I can actually complete a half marathon for yourself too. Once you see actually the sales and the leads come in, now this will motivate you, keep you motivated to keep doing this, right? That's kind of how it works. The other thing to consider is like, I'm not exactly sure what everybody's business is, but generally speaking, there is the consumer business, right? Then there's the business to business category, like you're selling mainly to businesses. But in the end, everybody in the business world is basically it's a human to human business because you are talking to other human beings. And especially when it comes to marketing automation and AI, like you hear a lot about that recently. That's all good. They're all tools in the toolbox, but the real down where it comes down to actually you have to deal with other humans, right? And if you're good at that, and so Mark, you have a sales background, so you know how that works. I don't care what people say about, how they make a decision when they buy things, but generally speaking, it's an emotional decision. They buy with their emotions and then they rationalize it after with the facts. So generally how it works, right? Stuart, you know this as well. So keep that in mind as well. You're actually you're not talking to a machine. You're actually talking to other human beings, right? And that keeps things interesting, but that's also sometimes a challenge, of course. Okay, so now we get to the actual system. So there's 3 steps that I recommend. So the first one is set a client goal. There's something that seems very obvious, but a lot of businesses don't do this, and I'll explain in a bit why that is so important. Then the next step is to make a list of ideal clients that you can serve well, and then do the work. We're going to talk about a little bit about outreach and actually talking to people in different ways. But again, if you set a goal and I say like 4 hours per week, maybe your reality it's 4 hours a month, for example. I don't care what it is necessarily. Although as long as you have a goal and you stick to that goal. So again, set a realistic goal, and then you can always increase that later, right? But you have to put that down on paper almost to say, okay, I'm going to commit to this, and I'm going to do this every week. If you do 4 hours a month, maybe it's 1 hour a week that you actually think about, that you set aside. You don't take any calls, you don't take any meetings. You're actually going to work on, on following up on your list, like reaching out to people, right? And because if you're like me, you get busy and you just forget about that, right? You're super busy just putting out fires, talking to clients that you already have, working on projects, and that's all very important. But sometimes you have to kind of pull yourself away from that and say, hey, like today or this hour, this afternoon, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work the list. And I guarantee if you do that on a consistent basis, you will see result. So the number one, like set a client goal. Now this of course is different for everybody. Okay, so this is not like a formula or anything. This will depend on your business. So if you have, you work with large multi-million-dollar projects, or you work with smaller projects, it kind of will determine how many new clients you would need on an average basis, right? So Monique, since you shared that you get a steady flow of leads, how many leads do you get into the door on average a month? You can just put it in the chat box if you like. Okay, yeah. So you already get 10 leads. So for example, to just go with that math. So Monique is getting 10 leads a month. That's per month, right? So 10 leads per month. And how many of those leads would you convert, you think, actually become clients? Okay. Yeah, so you have about a 40% conversion rate. Okay, that's really good. That's excellent. So in this example, I'm actually assuming a little lower conversion rate. So how many clients do you need? Well, say it's 10. Okay, I need 10 new clients a month to reach my sales goal. Okay. Now you want to multiply that by 5. So that based on the 20% conversion rate, you would need 5 times as many leads coming into your system to get the required, customers that come out of that, right? So it's actually pretty simple. And what I've seen oftentimes, once you start to think about these things in these terms, it's sometimes surprising how few additional clients you actually need to reach your goals, right? Which again will really be kind of a motivator for you to say, hey, like if we only get 5 more leads a month, I'm maxed out in all my work. So, right, like knowing that, now you can kind of work towards that. And anytime you set a goal, it's almost amazing how you actually subconsciously start to work towards that goal. So that seems to work really well because in a lot of cases, and the marketing industry is probably a bit at fault here. Like we're always thinking about like we need hundreds of more clients, right? So we're doing all these things, we're doing all these advertising, we're doing all the lead generation, but do we really know how many we actually need, right? So this can be a very helpful first step. So now okay, in this example, we need 10 new clients, and then at a 20% conversion rate, and Monique's conversion rate is much higher. Good for you. But this is just an example. I would need 50 new leads, 50 people to talk to, and then 20% of those people that I talk to will actually turn into clients. So the step number 2, now you know what your client goal is. Step number 2 is really to start thinking about who is your ideal client. Right? Everybody has maybe an idea about what your best clients are, but have you ever written it down exactly what the profile is of that particular client? So that's the first thing you do. If you haven't already done so, you should have a pretty good idea like who your ideal clients are, and some attributes of an ideal client, in my opinion, is they're profitable. Right? Like if you're in this for a profit, and you should be, because if you don't make a profit, you won't stay in business very long. You can solve their problem really well, so they're a good fit for you. And then the third component that I look at an ideal client is actually somebody that you like to work with. Right? Like nobody can force you to work with a certain client that you don't like, because oftentimes that's it's actually not good for your health. And generally speaking, if we work with clients that we like to work with, the results will be better as well. So those are some things to think about. And then when you talk about, so now I'm talking about building a list basically. So how many of you actually have a customer list or a lead list or people with contacts? Do you already have something like that, or is this a new concept for you? Stuart, you can open the mic. You can share from your experience.
I do have a list. Basically, just turned to Google and basically looked up a bunch of websites or clients or people I could possibly provide a service to,
Yeah.
put it in an Excel spreadsheet with their number
Yeah.
and their email address, and I kind of just go through that list.
Okay, and so that's excellent. So you already, and I think a lot of people probably have a list already, right? If not your Outlook contact list, or a simple spreadsheet, doesn't have to be fancy, right? So when you put together your ideal client list of people because ultimately we're going to approach these clients, right? So don't forget about the people you already know and already have dealt with in the past or have inquired in the past, right? It's a lot easier to deal with those clients than it is to you know, to deal with complete strangers.
So Mark does have a sales call list.
Okay.
And then Monique said, haven't put enough work into the list idea, mostly reacting to humans that have found her through the Google listing.
Exactly. Focusing on the humans. That's funny. Yeah, that's cool. No, that's true, and that's okay. But my recommendation would be to start maybe transferring those people and putting them on a list. And a spreadsheet is probably a really good place to start. If you want to be a little fancier and you're growing your business like a CRM, maybe something that can be very helpful in that, right? Like a lot of small businesses are switching over to systems now to actually make it much easier to capture some of that information. But the fact that you already have a starting point is really important. It's going to make it a lot easier. So then, like once you establish who your ideal client is, right? You have a bit of a picture of this person, and sometimes, Katie, we give them names as well, right? Like, and we call them, what do you call them? Like an ideal client.
Well, we typically create multiple personas. You can pretty much create as many personas as you want. And then
Yeah.
you can also create what we call negative personas. These are customers that you don't want to attract. So you can give them names that are easy to remember, like Ambitious Andrew or Stephanie, this salesperson. It's just so it's a little easier for your whole team to remember as well.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, so that's another technique that we have used with clients, and we describe who they are and we give them names. And then when we call them Stuart, for example, I'm just picking on you, Stuart. We call him Stuart. Everybody in the office knows this is Stuart. Like this is how he thinks. This is what's important to him. This is why we are such a good fit for Stuart. right? And then once you start doing that, it becomes a lot more alive instead of just a dull list of all kinds of attributes. As soon as somebody comes to the door, we know, well, that looks like a person like Mark or Stuart, right? And we know we can really help them to solve the problem. So that's a handy little tool. So another way to build your ideal client list is to do the research. And it's amazing how much information is available, of course, right now online, on businesses, on people. We never, like, I was in sales probably like 30 years ago, even before the internet, right? Uh, we didn't have any of these research tools, right? Like it was basically the phone book and networking and trying to find out who is who. With the introduction of LinkedIn, for example, if you're in the business, especially in the business to business, but almost for any professional, the LinkedIn is just a treasure trove of information, and people actually are expecting you to contact them almost. They want to connect. They're all in it for the same reason, which is a fantastic opportunity. So other social media can help as well. Like if you're depending on your business, if most of your audience hangs out on Facebook or other places, there's an awful lot of research you can do on the people that you're trying to reach. So and it's publicly available information. So you just have to do the research on it. There is also, we don't have a lot of experience with it yet, but there's automations, and now with AI, you can actually have AI go out there and create lists for you, like a lead scraping kind of a scenario. I caution people to use those kind of technologies, but we all know it's coming, right? And that kind of speeds up this whole process of building that list of ideal clients. In some cases, you can also buy an industry list, right? Like Mark, you have to remind me what your business is, but it has to do with museums, correct?
It's actually historic site promotion for the tourism business. So
There
I
you go.
create
Yeah.
video tour, what I call video tour maps.
Exactly. So yeah, you could, for example, considering to kind of build takes a bit of a shortcut. Maybe there may be a list available that you can buy. Again, I caution people to make sure that it's a quality list and it's up to date. But if nothing else, if you don't want to buy anything, then you just create your own. And as a matter of fact, if you build your own from scratch, you probably have a higher quality of list to start with. It's just more work. So you're going to ask yourself, well, where's our ideal client hanging out, right? Like, is it on online, social media? That's a really perfect way to connect with them, right? Things like Twitter, or I should say X, for example, is a direct connection to all these companies. You can ask questions, you can find out what they're doing, and most of the companies that I've seen are super responsive, right? Because they know the whole world is watching them. And it's the same with LinkedIn. You can easily go in there and in the right way introduce yourself and say, hey, like let's just connect, or let's do, let's start a conversation, right? So there's a lot of options that you have, and it's a lot of manual labor that you need to do, but it's can be very beneficial. Networking is still very important as well. Like what I like to do, for example, is go to a trade show, go to a networking event, and talk to as many people as I can. Grab a bunch of, I know this is all old school, but I mean, it still works today. And then once you have a name and and they at the very least have seen your face, now you can actually follow up with them the next week and say, hey, I saw you at this event. It was nice to talk to you. By the way, we actually provide services in your industry. Another thing you can do, you can look at other groups of other companies that actually are working with your ideal clients as well, right? So, for example, if you are a lawyer, you can team up with an accountant, for example, and say, "Hey, it looks like we're kind of working with the same clients. Is there any way we can, work together on reaching out to some of your clients and vice versa?" So I've seen a very successful partnership there as well, because in the end, you're helping their clients to become better at what they do. Okay, Mark, you. Okay, so Mark is already putting them into the customer journey with different stages and how close they are to actually being good leads for your business, correct?
Correct. I have a
Mhm.
quick question for you. I use mail, snail mail, direct mail. I don't know if you stand out more doing that because it's not used very often. I don't know if that's a good strategy, but I've had good results with it.
I think that's an excellent strategy, especially if you can kind of tie it back to your digital strategy, right? So have a QR code to go to your website, or make it very easy to bring that discussion back online. But the fact of the matter is, you're absolutely right. Like fewer people are using these tools, right? Like direct mail was very popular for a long time, and what's the reason you think you still get the Canadian Flyer, Tire Flyer every week, right? I mean, those big companies would not be doing this if it wouldn't be working. Okay, and if you have and what you're sending is actually addressed to a person, right? Generally speaking, like if you don't put a name on it, then the secretary may chuck it if they think it's spam, even in the physical world, it probably ends up in the garbage bin. Um, one thing that we have played around with is making what we call like lumpy mail. So it's actually, we put an item in the envelope to make it more bulky. And yeah, like if you get like a letter these days and it's bulky, unless it's you're suspicious, it's not it's something dangerous. But generally speaking, it's almost irresistible to open up that envelope, correct? So I think it's definitely don't underestimate some of those old school tactics, especially because few people are using it. Good point. So yeah, these are some of the things how you can do it, and most of the people on the call are already doing this. You're using a spreadsheet, you're writing it down somewhere. The CRM option is definitely something at some point, if as your business grows, it's probably a really good idea, but it's not necessary. Just keep it simple as possible. So again, when we did this for Edge, this is one of our personas, right, Katie? So our client is a medium-sized business. We put a modifier on it, like with a certain sales. Of course, they need to be for us to add value to their business. They need to be generating leads. They need to be interested in getting more customers. Otherwise, everything we do doesn't really work out. And then they have a certain budget that they can invest. This is just an example. But I would encourage you to do something very similar for your own ideal clients, and then write it down, and then tune it over time. It doesn't have to be perfect right from the get-go. But now, when you talk with your team or other people about it, you actually you know what you're looking for and who you're going after, right? So focus is really important.
Monique just has a question, and I might be able to answer it. An example of what a lumpy mail object can be mailed. Yeah, so these can be like little small trinkets. We had a client who was actually mailing out luggage tags with some of their promotional items. So it could just be something small like that.
Yeah, something small. It can be branded. Like if you have a small item that can be branded, that's fine. But it could very well still end up in the trash, though, depending on what it is, of course. Like if it's a USB stick, depending on the size of your audience as well, right? But if it's a trinket, basically it becomes irresistible for people to open that, and that's kind of the purpose of the lumpy mail. The object is not so much the value that it creates, although we like to kind of connect with the item you put in, maybe something to do with the product or service that you provide. This was like a large, expensive estate property that needed to be sold to people in North America. So like a Canadian luggage tag was kind of what we came up with. It's cheap. It kind of connects back to, well, it's traveling. So yeah, you can be creative with that. So, but that's a good question. Okay, so then the next step is you're actually going to talk to people, okay, guys? So this is, when I say talk, email, SMS, text, but also phone calls. So when you look at marketing, there's basically two main categories on how you can get more clients. Okay, so it's the outbound marketing, and that's more or less the traditional marketing that we have gotten to used to, right? Like we're sending out a message, and it basically, we try to reach as many people as possible. And then there's the inbound. So there's actually most of the work that we do at Edge is actually, getting people to connect with us and raising their hand to say, hey, We're interested in what you have to offer. Much better way to do marketing in a lot of ways. But there's still, what we talk about today is actually the outreach to these ideal clients is still more or less, it's not cold calling, but it's pretty close to it. Just by a show of hands, who likes to do cold calling 8 hours a day or even 1 hour a day? There's people out there. There's people out there that actually enjoy this, but I haven't met too many of them. So what we're gonna suggest doing is instead of just taking a random list and start calling people, and Mark, you're laughing. You've probably done this in your previous life. But the fact of the matter is it's very ineffective, right? Like right now, even if we phone clients, they don't answer the phone anymore, right? Like it's just we're very protective. We're very much, like send me an email, and we'll deal with things, right? So what I'm suggesting, instead of just randomly cold calling, we're since we built this list, we know who our ideal client is. We're actually going to be very focused in our outreach. Okay. Keep that mindset in mind as well. We're actually here to help people. We're here to make the world a better place, and we believe deep down that we can help this person that you're going to be talking to. That's very important. And then be consistent about it. Like if they don't answer the call or they say, hey, phone me back in 2 weeks, make sure you phone them back in 2 weeks, right? And then again, keep following up with them. Like the average customer, before, depending on your market, needs to maybe be reminded like 7 or 8 times, that you exist and you have a solution. And most salespeople give up after the first or the second time, right? So if you can even have 3 or 4 touch points with these leads, you're gonna stand out. It's not hard to stand out, right? So make sure you're consistent. Okay, so then again, keep your goal in mind, whatever that goal is. How many prospects do you really need? And then what I would highly recommend is focusing first on the low-hanging fruits, like your personal network, the people that you already know, people that have previously bought from you, or you've dealt with in different businesses, right? Like we all have our network, we all have influence. Even if it's a brand new business, you generally have a network of people you can talk to. So that's generally speaking a really good place to start building your list based on those contacts. Because it's way more natural to contact them, say, hey, Stuart, how are you doing? I haven't talked to you for a while. Hey, I'm doing this cool thing. And I think we could really help your business. I mean, that conversation is a lot easier than just a cold call out of nowhere without any context. So you can do things like reactivation emails, right? And again, email is a very powerful tool still to connect with a lot of people all at the same time. And then, nurture those relationships. So then the last thing is to decide, like, how are you gonna contact these people? Well, there's all kinds of different ways, right? Like personally, I like to connect with people on LinkedIn these days. LinkedIn again seems to be a very inviting place where people actually are willing to share and to connect with you if you do it the right way. But again, be selective in the people that you're contacting, so they know as soon as they see who you are that you actually, that could be a possibility for them, right? That you can help them. So I want to keep a little bit of time for questions here. So so that's in essence the 3-step lead flow system. Set a client goal, make your list, and then do the work. And fill in the blanks there, like how many leads you need per month. Fill in the blanks, how many hours a week or a month you need to work on that. In a lot of cases, even if you commit to 1 hour a month you're working on this, it is probably going to be 1 more hour than you were doing before. Okay, so you're already gaining, you're already building success. So build your list, work your list, and you will reap the reward. So again, with that, I'd love to open it up for questions or comments. Katie, if you have anything else to add, or Stuart. So Stuart is part of our team as well. I didn't really introduce him properly, but Stuart is playing the random customer at this point.
And I'm learning. I was
No,
trying to
you
think of a like if there are any questions, but this has been really motivating, and it's as like simple as it is, it's good to be reminded that
Yeah.
if you have like a strategy and you stick to it, it's that discipline thing versus trying to stay motivated. And
Yeah.
yes,
No.
I'm working with you guys as a team, but I've worked for myself for so many years, and that's always the toughest challenge. Some days you believe you can win, and then other days you're just not keen. So if you can just stay disciplined and stick to a plan, regardless of how you feel, like it's a foolproof plan.
Yeah, no, for sure, right? So that's we're all dealing with this, right? Like it's way more fun to work on a project for me than it is to follow up for the third or fourth time with a client that we don't know what the status is, right? So
Yeah.
Monique just has a question. What are some ways that are non-pushy if you have to follow up with them multiple times?
yeah, excellent question. So one way of doing this is being very helpful in your approach. So it's almost like you're like once you make contact and they've shown some interest, you can provide additional valuable information to them, and generally speaking, this through an email or an SMS. Doesn't have necessarily have to be a phone call even, but you just keep talking about the problem that you have solved for other clients, and you can actually solve for them as well. So what that does, instead of being a sales conversation, is just you helping those people solving their problem for free, basically, because they haven't bought yet. But what that does, and if we get things for free, other people help us. Like we are generally programmed to give back to that, so that kind of creates this goodwill and positions you as the guide. And oftentimes that's all it takes for them to appreciate you more and say, hey, like Monique is really in it for the right reasons. She's not really here to sell me anything. She's here to solve my problems. So if you change that mindset and the way you talk to those people and the way you communicate with them, that's going to be really the important part. Because yeah, nobody wants to be sold to. So and that's kind of the reality, right? Like they want a problem that they have, they want it solved. And of course, they are looking for somebody to help them through that. Does that make sense? Yeah, Stuart.
If I can just like add to that, recently I've been dealing with a new insurance broker, and she's excellent, and she's like followed up and been like consistent and friendly, and we switched all our insurance over, and I like apologized to her so many times. I just said thank you for like following up. um it, like I just haven't had the time to look at it, and yeah, so ultimately I think a lot of people are busy and it's not personal at all. So if you have
Mhm.
to like follow up, I think she followed up with me 5 or 6 times. And I had every intention to switch our insurance over to them. But if
Mhm.
she hadn't followed up consistently, I would have forgotten about it purely because I just didn't have the time to think about that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And that's kind of back to our mindset again, right? We go like, well, Stuart hasn't got back to us, so he's probably moved on to a different competitor. But no, Stuart's just been busy, and he appreciates me following up and say, hey, we gotta deal with this. So it all depends on how you present that, and don't even think about this making a sale. Think about how you can help these people that have shown interest. Any other questions? Yeah, like the glass half full, right? And we all do it. Like we assume all kinds of things about these customers that haven't gotten back to us, right? And then we are surprised all of a sudden out of the blue, 6 months later. It happens to us all the time. All of a sudden they go like, "Hey, Peter, we're ready to move forward with this," and we've already kind of forgotten about them, right? We've never really we have given up on them in some ways, and yeah, thankfully in some cases they come back, but in some cases they don't, right? They have moved on. So well, we haven't really heard anything back from this company because they experience this whole conversation completely from their side, right? They don't know that we've tried to get a hold of them for seven times. And again, the communication channels, I have to say, it is challenging as well, right? Because some people are, they don't even answer their business phones anymore. Like all the calls we make go to voicemail. Makes it really, really difficult. But again, there's some techniques we're using, and we're actually are actively engaged in using a CRM system that actually automates some of that follow up for us. And I think that's uh, in your case, Monique, like if you have to manually, like say you're dealing with like 50 different leads at any point in time, it's really difficult for anybody to keep track of all that, right? And actually follow up with them that many times. So that's where marketing automation comes in. And so like the 7 touch points, for example, could be like a sequence of emails that are being sent to those people, right? Or SMS text. I get them on my phone as well. I must have signed up for I think it's the Jeans Warehouse or something, but they just remind me constantly to my phone, hey, there's a sale on, and I can unsubscribe at any time, but I don't, because I go like, yeah, I actually want to know when the sales are going on, right? So you can kind of think the same way, that instead of being a pest, you're a welcome guest, and that takes some. You got to build a relationship with people, and that doesn't come overnight. There's no shortcuts for that.
Alan was just wondering if you have any suggestions on affordable CRMs for small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely there's a lot of different options out there. What we have found, we actually have our own offering. It's called Easy Leads. It is we couldn't really find a CRM system that was really geared towards our clients, what our clients needed. So we're more or less, we build out one ourselves, like based on an existing platform. But there's literally thousands of them. The problem with some of them we find is, like, especially from the larger companies like the Salesforces and the HubSpots, you it gets very expensive very fast. So that's out of reach for most of our clients. Plus you have to they kind of nickel and dime you a little bit, I feel, about, if you want to add a feature, you have to pay extra. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's our very own CRM. So if you're interested, by all means, we'd love to walk you through it and see what it can do for you. But there's yeah, it's definitely the future of marketing is really going to be more automated. Let's face it, right? Like with AI, the possibilities, we're just scratching the surface right now what it could do. The tools are available to make some of these things more automated and more, let's face it, if you have a system to follow up automatically, it's going to happen, right? You don't have to worry about it. So your consistency will be better. You're actually able to do some of these things, right? Anything else related to this topic, or any other business or marketing related topic?
Do you have any advice about connecting with people through LinkedIn? I kind of default that I'm connected. I have a lot of people in my network, but they're all related to me through my own past business activities or things of that nature. But developing new contacts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's different things you can do. You can basically, there's quite a lot of search capabilities that LinkedIn offers, right? That if you want to do a search for for a certain industry, you can get that information. Now it works better if you actually have a paid subscription to LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn Navigator, I think it's called. It makes it easier for you to connect with people that are not connected to you yet, and you probably get those in mails, right? And of course, you got to be careful that you are, tactful about it. Like, again, you can be a nuisance in no time, right? If you just randomly start to connect with people. But if you have a good reason to connect with them, for example, because you have a solution for their industry, and you from their profile you can learn that they're actually in that industry. Now all of a sudden it becomes a conversation. Say, hey, I'm Mark, I'm doing this cool stuff. By the way, 2 weeks from now we have a webinar that we're going to talk about this. Are you interested? Right? that is just one example. Like I think anytime you can give people or come up with a reason to contact these people, it's the same on the phone, right? Like randomly calling people is kind of really painful. But if you have a good reason to say, hey, Reese, we have this event coming up, or we have this product that we talked about a year ago. We finally have it available now. Like, can we connect and I can tell you all about it. And all of a sudden you have a more natural kind of a conversation. It kind of makes more sense. But there's definitely, I think it's, Katie, it's a $60 or $70 a month for the premium. I think you can get a free trial on it for a month. And
Yeah,
and it can drill down. It can drill down to industry, to your experience. Like it's actually quite powerful. But
Thanks,
start
Peter.
out. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, thank you for that. That's great.
Okay. Yeah. So start with the free version, though. There's a lot you can do already with just doing research and making sure that you're yeah, but again, you have to go back to your ideal client. You need to know who you want to talk to before you do any of this, right? And that's oftentimes our problem too. We don't really know who we're looking for. Well, then it's impossible to find people. But if you're clear on who you're after, then you can cast a net, and then you just narrow it down and actually find those people. And the nice thing about LinkedIn is you have a name. You can contact them through the platform. In some cases, it's easy enough to find the actual their email or their phone number as well, right? Great questions. All right. Well, I'm just gonna thank everybody for joining. I'll stick around for a few more minutes, no problem. But I also want to respect everybody's time.
and if
Go ahead.
yeah, if you guys have any questions after this call's over, feel free to reach us out to us and we'll be happy to answer it.
Yeah, absolutely. So great to see everybody. Have a good spring/summer. That's just around the corner.
Yeah, thank you for a great presentation today, Peter. Really, is really beneficial. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.